very much. You're now back on Tea or Coffee. Thank you very much to the newspaper review for giving us the dailies on the newspaper. Now the conversation on poetry continues this morning. We have a guest that is actually going to help us understand the state of poetry in Nigeria. Very important, that we look at how poetry, there's a creative side of poetry, and then there's the business and the cultural side of the appreciation of poetry, which we're going to be getting into with our guest, Ayokunle Komolafe. He's a media consultant with a special interest in television and radio. He has worked at Federal Radio Corporation and a number of media outlets. Among his many expressions is promoting poetry as a form of entertainment through one of his platforms called Vivid Verses. Good morning, sir. Lovely to have you in the studio.
Thank you for having me in the studio. Yeah. I'm very happy to be here.
So, poetry in Nigeria. So,
Yes.
Okay, I mean, maybe we should start from the basic for this conversation.
All right.
What is poetry? And I want you to answer this question in light of why should poetry be appreciated?
Okay. Poetry is actually a form of entertainment, or a form of let's call it entertainment,
Okay.
by which you use words, you play with words, you weave words to entertain people, and you can also address some social issues, with poetry. And the reason why we are pushing for poetry to be accepted in the society is that there are a lot of things that go into creating a poem or a spoken word piece. There are a lot of intellectual research and the rest, and it takes a deep mind to create a poetry piece or a poem. So that's why we are trying to let people know that, look, this thing is not an ordinary thing that you can just overlook. This is something that people are actually investing their time and energy on, and let it be appreciated. So that's poetry. You can have, we try to break into two, that we have the normal written poems and the rest, and also spoken word poetry, where a performer will come on stage and start reciting what he has written and memorized in form of some conversational, mode, and the rest.
Yeah. So why did you decide to get into poetry promotion? Like, what is the need for poetry promotion in Nigeria today?
Okay. Well, I started as a poet myself.
Okay.
Though I didn't perform, I was writing, and I think I started maybe around 1999 or thereabout. So, and I've written a number of things. So eventually, when I started working, I was working in, like you mentioned, at Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria. So I now saw that this poem that I've been writing, there's a way that we can put it on radio, put it on TV, so that more people can, appreciate it, through the mass media and the rest. So that's what now came to my mind, that since I'm able to have this access to the media, why don't I help others that don't have access to the media to present their works, on radio, on TV? So that's what actually encouraged me, or maybe inspired me to start promoting other people on mass media.
Yeah. So, you've been working in the media space,
Yes.
and you've been working in promoting poetry. So my question now is, the appreciation of poetry in Nigeria. Is poetry actually appreciated in Nigeria, or is it seen as something that children do in school?
Yes. When we were young, we were reading all these poems, all these rhymes, nursery rhymes.
Yeah.
But nowadays, Nigerians, like people like Wale Soyinka, they wrote so many poems. There's this poem that it's in J.P. Clark about Ibadan.
Yes.
So all these poems were being studied in schools, not in the mainstream. But there was a time in Nigeria that we had this Yoruba poetry too, that people will be, recording it. And so many people will be playing it and they will enjoy it. Ewi, there's this man, Lanrewa Jadepoju, that used to do that. So, but over the years, all this came down. People don't, uh, listen to them again. So that's the reason why it's okay. Let us help people to also put it on, this social media or on mass media, so that more people can know that there's something about this poetry that I need to, to enjoy. I and over the years it has now been appreciated. We've had uh, cases of adverts on TV, on radio by poets. There's a bank that they had this series of adverts by different poets. So these are the things that give us satisfaction that what we are doing is not in vain. Because if they've not seen those things, they will not call these poets to come and advertise for them.
Yeah.
And poets are also good copywriters.
Yeah.
So because they play with words, and because of this, they're able to do things, able to think deep, things that ordinary people may not think of.
Yeah.
They will think about it, and they'll be able to carve advertisements, in that line.
Yeah, so I want to talk about the transferable skills of poetry. I'm glad that you mentioned that copywriting
Yes.
is one of those things. Earlier on the show, we said script writing can also maybe be one of those things.
Yes.
So what I've seen in the creative industry is that sometimes poets find it hard monetizing their skills as poets. So in what ways can a poet monetize what he uses his words to do?
That's also one of the things that we are advocating.
Okay.
We are working both with the people and also with the poets, to help them see more into their arts. Many of them think that it's just about writing poetry and performing it. There's a lot to writing. Once you are very creative, you have this creative thinking ability, you'll be able to write well. You can do content writing for blogs. You can do content writing for social media. You can do content writing for websites, and the rest. Also script writing. You can even write scripts, performances with poetry. There's one poet in Abuja that does performances, stage performances with poetry. You will write the script, different people will come and they will recite it, and everybody will enjoy it. And so there's so many things that you can do as a poet, because the basic thing is that you know how to use words. So, and there's so many things you can use words to create.
Yeah.
You can even write journalistic pieces.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So, in your experience, I'm now understanding that you've met a lot of poets
Yes.
over the years, and obviously you've looked at a lot of poet works,
Yes.
like Wole Soyinka and the rest. So, is there a thing that makes a good poet? Like, what makes a good poet?
What makes a good poet is your ability to connect with your audience. If you are performing poetry that nobody understands, it's like you are talking to the to a blank space. People will just be looking at you like, what is he talking about? But when you are very versatile to the extent that when you see your guests, your audience, and you can connect with them, that makes you a good, and you are able to speak in the language that they understand. It's not about writing big grammar and the rest.
Yeah.
It's about the connection, and you are able to connect to their inner beings, and they'll be able to understand what this guy is saying is true.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, now I'm asking a personal question. What's your favorite subject matter when it comes to poetry? For instance, mine is probably maybe love. When I'm in love, I write very beautifully. What's yours?
Okay, I think I'm also sharing your your bars and the rest.
Yeah.
Okay, I like love, and sometimes I like writing about issues in the society.
Yeah.
Because as a poet, you can incite the conscience of people to do things. That's what a poet can do.
Yeah.
So I like all those topics that talks about life, talks about nature, and the rest.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the artistic power. I'm glad you mentioned this. The artistic power of poetry in impacting how we think as a
Okay.
society. You know, a lot of poets, it's words. So a lot of poets probably don't understand that, you know, what you are writing can really make people, can shift a
Yes.
person's mindset. I want you to talk about that for a minute. Like the artistic power, how powerful it is, you
Yes.
know, the power of words, basically.
Yeah, the power of words is enormous. You know, there's sometimes that what you say to some people. There's this proverb that said that it's word that we bring a sword from the sheet, and also it's also word that we bring a cooler from the pot. You know, it depends on how you present it. Like there was a time during the commemoration of World Suicide Day, I wrote a poem, and it's about telling people that you are valuable, you are good. Don't think about taking your life and the rest. You know, that's what poets. That's what they do. They talk about issues, about don't. You know, some people may see there are instances that people will read something and it will connect with them that. If not this thing that this person said, that's what affected the way I'm thinking, that made me to
Yeah.
think otherwise, and maybe I could have taken my life, and you know, because of what you said, because of the poetry that you read, because of the truth in your word, that's what just changed my perspective.
So what do you think about, so I heard this quote, you know, a friend told me this quote earlier this week,
Okay.
that writers don't choose writing, that writing chooses you, that you don't choose writing, but writing chooses you.
Yes,
Is that true?
It's true. Because you know, it takes an awareness, a conscious awareness to know that you're a writer. You don't just write. When you, yeah, I'm sure that you must have read so many articles, but when you see the one that strikes you, you know. When you see the one that is creatively written, you know. So you can be very eloquent at speaking English or at writing whatever, but to write creatively is not given to everybody.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, so we have some fun facts, some interesting facts about poetry
Okay.
that we would like to have a look at with you this
Okay.
morning.
All
Now, one of those facts is that poetry is a great way to improve your vocabulary.
Yes.
Now, as you read poetry, you will start to find more complex words that you've never heard of. Same is with writing. You would like to find new words so you can mix those with your poetry. So poetry will invoke your creativity and you will start to look for words to add to your vocabulary. Is this correct?
It's very correct, because it happens to me. You know,
Okay.
there's sometimes that you might have written something in the first line, and you want to write something similar in the second line, and you will know within yourself that that's not right. So you have to look for the synonyms of that one.
Yes.
And you know, and you have to understand that okay, it's actually working, you know, in tandem with that one at the top.
Yes. Oh my
So
goodness.
that's-
This is my experience writing
Exactly.
poetry. Please go on.
So it helps you to develop your vocabulary. The same
Yeah.
thing as when you are writing normal stories and storytelling and the rest. So you look for words to be able to explain what you are writing about.
Yeah, you know, another thing I've noticed with my poetry as well, we're taking this into consideration, is when you see like some French, okay, like que sera sera,
Okay.
you know, whatever will be, something like
yes,
that.
yes.
You know, so when I want to change those concepts and add it to my poetry, I'm learning like new French words, for instance,
Exactly.
or like new French concepts.
Yes.
Very interesting. All right, so the next facts we'll have a look at. Poetry can be used to make your rap better, like
Yes.
music. Okay, so when comparing rap music versus poetry, it's important not to think in a negative way. Just because the mainstream media is broadcasting rap about guns, drugs, women, and money, it doesn't mean that that should be your style of writing. There are lots of underground artists trying to uplift our society, and you should be one of them. Just find a theme that challenges and inspires the mainstream society. So, poetry and rap, how does that work?
Well, you can't be a rapper if you're not a poet. It's actually rhythm and poetry.
Actually.
So you set your poetry to rhythm.
That's what rap is.
That's rap was what rap is. So and now to be a rapper, that like we're talking about issues.
Yeah.
So it's now your personality that now determines what you write about or what you rap about. So if you determine that you don't want to rap about, create songs about violence and
Yeah.
the rest, there are some clean raps. There are people that do religious raps and the rest.
Yeah.
So it's now about your personality and what you want to, how you want the society to perceive you.
Right.
If you want them to see you as a gangster, then you start writing gangster raps because
Yeah.
your rap, you follow some rules of poetry like rhythm, like rhyming and the
Yeah.
rest. So you also, anything you are doing in line with poetry, you also follow those rules.
Yeah. So, rhythm and poetry, what you said, that is actually what. So, fun fact, if you're watching this morning and you didn't know the full meaning of rap, it's actually rhythm and poetry, actually.
Yes.
So, I remember Def Jam, they had
Yes.
this Def Jam rhythm and poetry events
yes.
they used to do back in the day.
Yes.
That's where we saw Kanye West,
Yes.
Lauryn Hill, Eric Badu,
Even this Nigerian, Batsi Ipi.
Yeah, okay, yes. So we saw, these like Nigerians or black people in diaspora,
Yes.
African Americans deliver poetry. And that particular event, where they were able to showcase and introduce a lot of poets. Now, I want to talk about that kind of thing in Nigeria. What is the event space for poetry like? Are there a lot, like during the break, I was telling you that, I found it difficult finding open mic events and all of these kind of things. Are there open mic events? How can a fellow poet who is watching this morning connect with such communities?
Okay, well, like when you introduced me as a poetry promoter, we started from that angle.
Yeah.
Def Poetry Jam actually inspired me to start
Okay.
poetry. When I saw it and I saw how people were performing, I had that dream of having a lounge where people come and perform poetry. So eventually we went to radio and we had this radio show for like 3 years. It was running every weekend. Poets come on the show. And after that, it graduated to an open mic show that we hold every month, which we call Waterholics.
On the radio?
No.
Okay, actually an event. Okay.
An event in a lounge.
Yeah, okay.
So the Waterholics is something that we are trying to create to be replicated in every neighborhood. That's many places that we can get. But now we have a lot of open mic events. We have some that hold maybe every month, some fortnightly and the rest. So there are a lot of them. Well, if you go to Instagram, I think if you type poetry in Nigeria, you should be able to see so many.
Okay.
So there are some that maybe once in a while, there's some once in a year and the rest.
Yeah. So is poetry now? Is poetry a Lagos thing or like is it like Lagos is a metropolitan city?
Yes.
So is it a metropolitan thing, or can you see poetry gigs in places like, for instance, Abia or like Kwara, for instance?
Yes, poetry is everywhere in Nigeria.
Okay.
There are a lot of events. There are some events in Abuja. There are some events in Jos.
Okay.
And there's even a friend of mine that holds this War of Words. It's like a slam. People come all the way from Jos to perform in Lagos, to contest. People come from Port Harcourt.
Okay.
There's a poet in Port Harcourt, Graciano, is doing a lot over there, trying to create awareness too. So it's everywhere in Ibadan. Poets they gather in Ibadan to perform poetry and the rest.
Okay.
So it's everywhere in Nigeria.
Okay.
And I think everywhere in Africa.
Okay. All right. Okay. So the reason why I asked that question is because I don't want, I have to, we have to investigate whether it's a metropolitan concept. Do you know this thing about poetry, like, it's for the posh people or whatever it is?
We're even encouraging people that start something in your own neighborhood.
Yeah.
There was this guy in Federal University of Technology, Akure, that we were working together to create something in that place, and people came around and performed poetry.
Okay.
There are some people that didn't know that they have this thing in them. That is when they come on to such platform that you now see that there's this thing I was writing, there's this thing I was saying that is similar to what these people are saying. And before you know it, they too, they become poets.
Actually, okay, all right. So we're going to wrap up the interview now. This has been a wonderful, I mean, from one poet to another, this has been a wonderful conversation. However, I would like you to encourage poets in Nigeria. So that is your camera.
Okay.
I want you to encourage poets in Nigeria to keep on writing and keep on, producing art.
Okay, well, poets. This is something that gives us, this delight that people are performing poets and writing poems. And I want to encourage you not to stop. There's so many things that you can do with your art. And in this digital age, you are very valuable. You are being people are looking for you to write their content, to write their social media, to manage whatever they need to do. And I know that if you keep putting yourself out there, people will find you very soon. And before you know it, you're out there, as a celebrity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
sir.
very much.
Honestly, I want to also say thank you for all the work you are doing. As a poet, thank you for all the work you're doing
Thank
for
you very
poetry
much. Thank you very
in
much.
Nigeria. That has been Ayokunle Komolafe on Tea or Coffee on the conversation Poetry in Nigeria. We hope that you have learned something. Poets, be inspired, keep writing, and go out to perform. The conversation continues after this break. Stay with us.
Thank you for still staying tuned to us on Tea or Coffee. The conversation is still on poetry, and we just had a guest, and we talked about poetry as much as we can, but that's not all on poetry this morning. But for you to catch what is happening live, go to our social media platform at Watch Tea or Coffee on Instagram. We already have another special guest in the studio with us that would be doing a spoken word poetry performance. That's how I want to put it. Spoken word poetry performance for us this morning. His name is Olushola Adigun. He is a spoken word artist, and he is popularly known as Solar Speaks. How are you doing?
I'm very, very well.
Are you ready to perform for us this morning? Okay, so let's talk a little bit on spoken word artists.
Okay.
To you, where do you draw your inspiration from?
Basically everything that is a creation. Yeah.
That's nice. So how many poems would you be doing for us today?
I say 2. Yeah. For
2
the time that
poems.
I have.
All right. You know what? Let's not waste time. Let's take it
Right.
away.
So I can talk about the poem before I.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I wrote this poem, Selfish, basically to address the state of our society at the moment, because I believe that there's this rise in depression, and even though we don't talk about suicide anymore, it's still very much around us, and it's only cool as a poet, or it's actually mandatory as a poet, as an activist, to keep talking about these things so that, the effects over time can be felt. So this poem is titled Selfish. Not essentially a true story, but it's something that happens. Please listen. So, recently, I saw a picture online. A Facebook friend of mine, decently dressed, smiling in a selfie with some roses somewhere behind. I guess how many likes she had? 1 from a friend, 1 from herself, and the 3rd was mine. Now, you do not expect her to come online, check for the picture on her timeline, and smile. No. But much recently, I saw a picture online. A Facebook friend of mine, decently dressed in black, smiling in a selfie with a coffin somewhere behind. Now, guess who was laying in the coffin? Her friend who died after 6 days of thinking about nothing. Now, nothing. Nothing is wrong with this picture except the note that said she wrote about having about 5,000 friends and 15,500 followers, yet nothing. Yet nothing is wrong with this picture except the fact that this girl in a selfie with a coffin was showing her heartlessness to God. Like, Lord, see how selfish I have become. But before you begin to probe where she got the guts from, let's zoom the picture a bit. She brings the phone down, logs onto Instagram, checking through pictures and videos, double tapping as she scrolls, giving them heart, giving them love as though she's got some somewhere under her skin. But still, I blame her less for answering the question society is ever asking. Her skin is a Facebook post begging for reactions, begging for comments and likes. And moments like this remind me of how lost we have become. We have lost our minds. We are searching for them on Google. I think we're charmed. I'm thinking tech is an upgraded version of voodoo. Because if you intend to get hundreds of likes, please tell me, what would you do? I'd say you say, it's your birthday today, a day to your wedding day, or a loved one just passed away. And then sit back to watch hundreds of comments come in from your ghost friends for the rest of the day. Think you relate. Or wait, I understand your hands might be busy with your phone, so no bothers with the wait. Lots of laughter. But even I will put a post up to gather lots of likers after now. What's the matter? I'll try my best to answer. We are losing weight for the things that matter in the name of gaining fame and occupying space. I mean, this is what society says to your face. Chase 500 comments and 12,500 likes for getting. So we all spend the rest of our days scrolling up and down our timelines, forgetting that we have got not more than a lifetime. Like time, everyone wants to be checked on, but still like time, no one is checking on no one is waiting for no one. No one is patient enough or rich enough to pay attention, even though it's cheaper than the cheapest data. Let's say the world is going to an end, right? But I think the world is returning to everybody wants an apple in their hand. And these are the things we all need to amend. Our hands now touch screens much more than touching our lives. Our hands now touch screens much more than they are touching our lives. Realize we fade our pains from our eyes when we realize. We fade our pains and filter our fears. Everyone minding their bitter affairs, speeding as fast as flash. No Paul is waiting for Peter to share. And yeah, like whistle, everybody wants to blow. And soon they will blow because nobody really cares to know what you know as long as you've got good pictures to show. So applaud to say go. To go came and left our teams with all the things it takes to make to photos. The only thing we have for the coming kids are comics kids and half-naked photos. I'm thinking that sex is our motto because it's driving us crazy. It's within blocks of pride and it's tagging us lazy. No one wants to be mad, as in making a difference. Everybody wants to be crazy, and it shows in our genes. Recently, I saw a picture online. A Facebook friend of mine decently dressed in black, smiling, in a selfie with a coffin somewhere behind. I guess who was laying in the coffin? A girl who was smiling in a selfie with a coffin when I started this poem. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. The emotions, the passion, I felt everything. In fact, I could have sworn that was a real life story.
Yeah.
And I mean, all the messages, everything that you wanted to pass has been passed.
Thank you.
That's a very beautiful one. And it is a very sensitive one, to
Very,
what is
very
happening in the society at the moment. This is very lovely. So nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Selfish. Wow. All right. I know you have one more for
Yes,
us. All right,
I
so
do,
tell us
yeah.
about it very quickly.
Okay, so this one, I wouldn't want to look like some sad person.
Okay.
So I'll do this poem to encourage whoever feels like they need to be somebody else for them to be amazing, for them to be accepted in the society.
Okay.
And who even says you need to be accepted like that if you are not going to be yourself. I think the best version of you that you can be, the best thing you can be is the best version of
yourself.
You. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I wrote this poem, Be You, quite an old poem, but always relevant.
All right.
So, yeah,
Let's go.
It's actually inspired by the story of Olajumoke Orisaguna, the lady who got famous overnight at Yaba, the bread seller.
The bread seller.
Yeah,
Okay.
so-
Okay.
Yeah. I hope I still remember.
Yes, go.
So I'd like to tell you a story about how grace raised a poor bread seller from grass straight to glory. Glory to God. And some praises to the lady too. Because she was not lazy. She gave life all it took. There is no heaven in jumping off sleep before 7, not home till 11. Selling your bread unleavened to hungry angels and devils, praying to God to please bless your endeavor. I imagine a poor bread seller cutting corners from street to street with a properly placed pyramid of bread, flinging palms in the air, with the faith that our whole life is safe in the hands of our head, obviously unaware of the sweet story ahead. I imagine the flower girl story. Before we all got the appetite to taste a slice of her glory, and only she can explain the gentle pains and rape escapes from cost Thomas. Of course, to buy such a sweet life would have cost so much. So life reminds us once more of a sweet, simple lesson. No matter how cursed your root seems, your leaves can still be a blessing, a lesson. From our poor bread seller becomes a big breadwinner because she was modest. Grace raised her from bakery flames to global fame. She didn't have to dress naked to seduce our angels. So listen, your angel will find you. If your habits are not so dark that they hide you, when he finds you, he will refine you. So wait, your faith is not my faith. You can be me, but I'll be authentic. And you will be my faith. It's not wrong if you like me, but you can't be like me. And it's true you can copy me, but I'm sorry, you can't be the lucky me, because I've cut my coat and it's according to my size. You can run in my race, but you can't get my prize. So be you. So when grace comes searching, it won't take more decades for him to see you and see you, whom millions admire. You were tired of yourself, but you were people's desire. You know, I know you were tired, but allow me to explain that we are all different stories, even though our writer remains the same. The same way he wrote you, he wrote me too. We are all single stories, no copy is two. And it's true that you are you is a blessing, and that I cannot be like you is interesting. So invest in yourself, make up your mind to be fine, conceal not your light, you were made to shine. Brush your skills, cream your talent, and powder your power, because you are a gold waiting to be mined. And beauty may not be found in the depth or seas or in the face of the skies, but it will always be in the beholder's eyes. And life is not about how you come in. Life is not all about how you come in, but about how you stay and say goodbye. Thank you.
I really, really hope that, you know, at some point you are recording some of this spoken word poetry that you do, so that, you know, people out there can actually listen to it in India. Because this particular one on encouragement, I want to listen to it all the time. I really want to, and I'm not even
Actually,
joking.
I have a video. Yeah, I think I have it out there. Yeah.
I would really love to listen
it's
to it
produced, yeah.
every day, just to remind myself that I should be you and I shouldn't be somebody else's fake. You know, I mean, lucky me. I love it. Thank you so much,
You're welcome.
Solar Speaks, for giving us all these beautiful nuggets. As you know, as they are performances, they are also conversations that we should all have with ourselves, and also remind ourselves that at the end of the day, we should always be us and not be somebody
Someone
else.
else.
That's so nice. Thank you so much for joining us today on Tea or Coffee. I just had a wonderful one with Olushola Adigun, popularly known as Solar Speaks, and he performed 2 different spoken word poetry, one on selfish and the other one titled Be You. And the one that really spoke to me is the fact that at the end of the day, you should be authentic. The person that wrote us didn't write 2 copies. Your story is unique to you.